Hello and welcome to Tech of the Month for October. Now, usually the cycling world would be winding down about now, but in our unusual calendar year that we're having, we're actually still got world champs and the classics to look forward to.
And the Vuelta.
And the Vuelta. Everyone always sort of forgets the Vuelta though, don't they? But we're not here to talk about racing. Oh no, we're here to talk about more great product. And I'm joined by Michelle. Hello, Michelle. It's been a long time since we've been able to present this anything other than individually. So it's very exciting to see you again.
Back on the brown sofas.
Back on the brown sofas. And you've brought an exciting product for us to see. What have you got?
I have brought with me the Elite Sterzo Smart. We've seen this at various trade shows over the last kind of few months. Elite previously did have a manual version, which simply just kind of gave you more of an experience when you were riding indoors. This is the Smart version, and they've actually paired up with Zwift, and its kind of Zwift Future Works program means that you can use this to actually steer and control your bike on Zwift. Now it offers 34 degrees of rotation either way, so you'll pop it under your front wheel just like a normal riser block, but when you actually twist your handlebars, this does move left to right, and it allows you to move around the course on Zwift. You can use it in group rides. At the moment, organisers can choose between whether they make if it's a race, between whether they make it a steering or non-steering race. So you can't use this, enter a race alongside people that don't have steering and get an unfair advantage, because it absolutely would give you an unfair advantage. When normally your little avatars on Zwift, sometimes they don't always take the best corner, do they?
They take quite square lines, don't they?
Yes,
quite often.
Computerized lines. And you could actually undercut them quite brilliantly if you do it properly. Interestingly as well, where normally on Zwift, if you're not using a steering application, you can just ride through people, right? With this, it actually takes away that capability, so you can't just ride straight through someone. Instead, you actually have to find a gap. The thing that I find the most interesting is it makes the racing side much more tactical. So in a real road race, you don't just attack from the middle of the bunch because everyone will just draft off you, and it's exactly the same in Zwift. But if you're using this, you can move to the left and you can put your attack in, and people, if they don't have this, well, they can't sit on your wheel, or they need to react and they need to actually move over left to be able to sit on your wheel and get that drafting effect. I've only tried 2 Zwift races myself, but I can see how this could make it a lot more fun. So onto the kind of basic spec levels. Works with Bluetooth Smart. It doesn't yet work with Ant Plus. They are working on compatibility, but at the moment it's only Bluetooth Smart. But when I used it, paired it with my phone, just appears as an extra device to connect to, so that was actually really simple. It does come up with sort of a few instructions telling you, move left, move right. It also tells you can't crash into other riders, which is always good to know. You also can't crash into the gantry or the barriers or the bushes. You can't go off the course, which is a bit of a shame. It could be quite funny if you could career off the side of the mountain.
It would certainly make a difference in racing, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
if you could crash.
Exactly. It takes AAA batteries. Mine are right in the box with the 3 AAA batteries. They do last over 500 hours. I've seen 600 hours quoted, so they should last a pretty long time. This I can see being a real game changer, the fact that it actually has an effect in racing, and I can also see maybe the direction Zwift is thinking of taking as well. So it will be interesting to see where Zwift takes this. It's got recent investment to create its own hardware recently. So where does that leave this in a few years' time? We'll have to wait and see.
Be interesting to see, won't it? Thanks, Michelle. Really interesting product that's looking to shake up the indoor training market. Now, the products I've brought this month are firmly for outdoor riding. I have brought a pair of bike lights because it's that time of year again, unfortunately. So I've brought a set of bike lights from Kryptonite. So Kryptonite use a measurement called lux instead of the classic measurement lumens, which is the one that most people would probably know about, which is how most bike lights measure their light output. So lux versus lumens, what's the actual difference? Well, they're both measurements of light. Lumens are the measurement of light as they leave the light, and lux is a measurement of light at a specific distance.
So lux has long been considered, it is more efficient and it is more representative. The problem with lux is that no one else uses it. So, you know, if you're shopping for a bike light, it's all well and good knowing this produces 4 lux, 5 lux. But if you can't compare it with, you know, the competitor at £20 cheaper, £20 more expensive, how useful is that?
Kryptonite would say that lux is much more useful for the consumer or the user of bike lights because it measures light that hits the specific object at the distance. It's a measurement of the light that is actually going to be showing you where you're going. So if you're riding your bike and it's shining on the road. Now, that's really useful because lumens, a light might say it's 1,000 lumens bright, but actually a lot of that light is bleeding upwards, it's bleeding to the sides, it's not actually illuminating where you want to go, it's just illuminating, the classic is it's just illuminating all the road signs, all around you, and everything's lit up really brightly.
Some bunny like 2 meters to your right hand side.
Exactly, it's just been dazzled.
Yes.
Whereas Kryptonite, using the lux measurement, which is measuring the surface at the distance of where it's pointing. Now they pair this with a very smart lens design which cuts the light off so it all points straight down at the road. It's much more efficient in that everything is pointing down at the road where you're going. So it's sort of like a measurement of the useful light coming out of a bike light rather than just the measurement of all the light coming out of the bike light regardless of where it's going. Now, the 2 specific models I have here are the top of the range unit. So this is the Kryptonite Insight X6, which is a 60 lux device, and it has lots of very cool features. So it has 7 modes of varying different strengths and brightness, including flashes and slow pulses and, you know, all of that jazz that you would expect from a top-end light. It also has a really cool little digital display. So it tells you its battery life and the runtime left in each mode that you're in. It all charges via a micro USB on the back, which is protected by a little flap here. And that I pair to this, which is the Insight XBR rear light, which I really like this because it's such a tiny little unit. But when you're riding with it in the dark, it does really pack a punch. Again, this has 7 modes, of which one of them is an auto motion sensor, so it knows when you're braking. And it will get brighter, so traffic behind you know you're slowing down. That is the Kryptonite Insight X6 for £63 and the Insight XBR for £26. And that is my product for October's Tech of the Month. Now we're going to go and see what James has got. I think he's got some sort of GPS safety tracker, so he's probably planning on getting himself into trouble at some point. So handing over to James.
For my product for Tech of the Month this month, I've brought something a little bit different. What I've got here is I've got a Spot Gen 4 satellite messenger. Now, you might wonder why I'm introducing such a product as this, but if you like to go riding on your own, especially off-road, or you take part in long-distance events, this is a very, very important bit of safety equipment that you might well be interested in. Now, this one is brand new though. It's only just come out and it offers quite a few advantages over the Generation 3, which is what a lot of people have. So what is it? Well, basically it's a GPS device that you can use to allow other people to track your location, but also you can use it to notify whether or not you're okay, or if you need emergency help. So it's very, very simple. There's only a few different buttons on this and it's very, very small and lightweight. So you can carry it around with your normal kit on a day-to-day basis. So it works a little bit different to your standard GPS device because it relies on some dedicated satellites, actually Globestar's low orbit satellite system, which allows you to be in direct contact with that, and it doesn't matter what the reception is like anywhere in the world, you will be able to get communication through this. So as I said, there's a few very simple buttons and it is simple to use. So what we have here is we have basically a track button, a send message, send a custom message, or then you have the two most important ones, which are to ask for help or to SOS, so an emergency call. So the three buttons at the bottom you can just press as normal. The two most important buttons are actually underneath a little flip down cover, which means that you can't accidentally activate them when you don't need to. And there's a reason why you don't want to press this button accidentally, because this system connects you to a system called GEOS, which is basically a global help center. And what will happen is if you activate this device, they will send rescue to your coordinates. If you do need help other than like in a life-threatening emergency, then that's where the other button comes in. So you can actually ask for your own contacts for help, and then they can obviously get in contact with you. It's really, really good. So it's quite a small unit. It's IP68 waterproof, so it's fully waterproof, and it uses standard lithium batteries. So there are 4 AAA batteries in here, and it promises to have the longest life of any system like this. You're looking at, with one set of batteries, it will do 1,250 messages. So you can send 1,250 messages in one battery sort of cycle. Some of the upgrades over the Generation 3, so we've got more enhanced mapping. You also can customize your messages a little bit more than you could do before. And you can do something called geofencing. So what you can do is you can actually set up geographical boundaries. Then this will send alerts if you wander out of those boundaries. So it's something that, again, if you're in sort of like quite specific types of terrain, you might want to have sort of set up. So it's actually quite a complex item for something so simple to use out in the field. Price-wise, we're looking at £150 for the new unit. Obviously, that price is for the base unit. You then have to pay out for a monthly or a yearly subscription service, which allows you to utilize all of those safety features. You're looking at around about £10 or so per month for the basic package, all the way up to over 20 odd pounds per month for a package which allows you to send unlimited amounts of messages. There it is. That's the Spot Gen 4 satellite messenger, and it's my product of the month.
Bike of the month this month is the absolutely stunning Scott Foil 10. I mean, just look at that colour scheme. Scott have been absolutely knocking it out the park lately with their bike design. The foil is Scott's aero bike. So they have the Addict, which is used for climbing. This is the one that the sprinters would use.
It's always been well known for being an aero bike that rides pretty well, hasn't it? So it's never been one of those kind of slightly, fast but kind of clunky bikes. I've always heard people say it's a real, like, a rider's aero bike.
Yeah, for definite. And there are a couple of updates which we'll come on to, which make that even more the case with this new foil. But we're going to start with the big one, that is the total lack of external cables at the front end. All the cables are completely integrated, which just adds to the incredible look of this bike. So Scott do this through the use of their Syncross ICSL handlebar, which is a one-piece bar and stem, again, which was first used on the Addict last year. So the cables route inside the bar. They run them internally in the handlebar and then into the head tube. Now these are designed to run all cables internally, hydraulic, mechanical. This potentially isn't the best example because this is a SRAM Force group set, so actually it's completely wireless, which makes cable routing very easy.
Incredibly, yes.
Now you can adjust that front end without having to cut any cables because they are split spacers. Split spacers are every mechanic's dream. It does make it a lot easier because you just pull the spacers apart and slide them out rather than having to cut the cables, pull everything off, put them back on, like in the good old, bad old days of aero bikes.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it is a little bit simpler at the front, and it does also have that protective cap on top, which is obviously where the steerer bolt sits. So that's a real change. To do the internal cable routing, they put the new bar on, but also they changed the shape of the forks a little bit. So that allowed them to do a smoother cable routing internally, but also allowed them to increase the tyre size. So you can now run 30mm tyres on this bike, which are luxuriously comfortable. I'm a total convert to this from riding my Cervelo, which comes with 28 mils as standard. So other than the handlebar and the fork change, the actual rest of the frame is the same as the old foil. It uses the same Scott F01 aerodynamic design. It has the same PF86 bottom bracket and that kind of really chunky down tube. And they also updated it last time to give it these sort of slender seat stays to just add a bit more comfort at the rear. So there is a Scott Foil Pro above this that retails for £8,099. This is the Scott Foil 10 that retails for £5,399. And you do get that SRAM Force ETAP group set.
Which is, I mean, it is expensive, but when you compare it with the kind of the top of the line, you know, the similar price points at the likes of Specialized with their SL7 and with Trek with its Madone, it is significantly cheaper, isn't it? You know, you might be looking at £10,000 for that £8,000 model and sort of £7,000 for that £5,000 model. It's a definite, I mean, Scott is definitely more, I'd say, cost efficient than some of those really big brands.
It is coming in a degree cheaper than those brands for sure. It's one of the best looking bikes that I've seen this year, I think, and it's going to be really exciting to see how it rides. We absolutely loved the old foil, so it's going to be really cool to see what the update is like. So that is the Scott Foil 10, the new bike for 2021 that retails for £5,399. So there you go, that is Tech of the Month for October, done and dusted. Thanks very much, Michelle.
All right, thank you.
You're going to be putting yourself into the indoor pain cave to do some cornering, which is something I've never said before, so.
Yeah, I might have to do some actual Zwift racing.
I'm afraid so. It is the season, after all. Now, we'll be back next month with some more great products and another gorgeous bike, so do keep your eye out for the next update of Tech of the Month. And do keep your eyes peeled for more great content to come on the channel. If you do have any questions about what we've spoken about today, then do leave them in the comments section below. And if you have enjoyed watching it, please do give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel because it really does help us out. Now, we'll be back soon with some more great content and we'll see you then.